Welcome to Mandatory Fields. Hey, I'm Eric, and in Business Central we have the concept of fields that appears to be mandatory. There's a red asterisk next to them if they're empty, and there's lots of indication that you should really fill out these fields. But it's also kind of weird because it seems like you don't have to. And over the last couple of weeks, I've received several questions about this topic, so I thought, let's do a video about it. Let me show you what I'm talking about at first. So here is the customer table. And if I create a new customer, I select a template for the customer. And we can see, oh, there's an asterisk next to the name. And if I mouse over that, the value for this field is required. Excellent, we'll do that. So if this is a name. So we got a name and the little red asterisk disappeared. Perfect. Let's look at the rest of this page. So tax area code is also mandatory, but you know what? This guy is not tax liable for whatever reason that might be. And clearly he is not marked as tax liable. He's never gonna be, or her, tax liable. But this value is still required. But I don't care. So now let's see if there's other fields. I don't think there are any other fields right now. Maybe if we do a show more, there's a possibility that other fields might show up. I don't think so. No. So, okay, I will ignore the red asterisk. I'll go away with that. So I'll just close this one and no arrow. So I guess we have a customer somewhere called, this is a name. Seems like a perfectly valid customer. I can go in and say new document sales order. And I can create an order on this clearly incomplete customer because the red asterisk is still there. And another example of, the red asterisk being very red, but perhaps not very precise, is that let's create a new purchase order. And we can see here, oh, we need a vendor name and we need a vendor invoice number. That's fair enough. I'll select a random vendor. I'll ignore the vendor's invoice number. There's also a red asterisk on the item number, so let's do one of those. And I will do 7 bicycles, and I will ignore the price because maybe those are $0 bikes. So quantity to receive is 7, quantity to, ignore the warehouse. Quantity to invoice is 7. Okay, so I'm done. Clearly, what I have created is from, get rid of that one. We can see what I have created is as a user, this clearly looks like a non-functional purchase order. So let's release this guy. I could release it, even though clearly it looks wrong. So let's do an F9, receive an invoice. So now we're posting and we're actually getting a breakpoint because I had the debugger running. Let me actually stop the debugger here. So you need to enter the document. Oh, so that was the red asterisk on this guy. So we'll put in the, that's a good number. I'll hit F9 again, receive an invoice. I posted this, no issues, but there were clearly 2 red asterisks still present because We actually got a unit price. That's a different story. So to quote a private movie, that these are not as much rules; they're more like guidelines. That the red asterisks are there telling you that, hey, at some point, this field might be needed. So let's find our customer again here. So you might as well fill it out. That's kind of the message. So you might need this field at some point, so you might as well fill it out. But actually, let's go into Visual Studio Code and see how it works, and see what we can do with this. So I have created just an empty page extension for the customer card here. I'm going into layout, and then let's take a look and see. Okay, we got some fields. So how about address or address 2? So we can say modify. Say, hey, address 2. Show mandatory is the property that controls it. So I said show mandatory equal true. That's it. Let's compile, deploy. That was fairly quick. I like that. And we can open a customer card and see, hey, now we got a red asterisk that the value for this field is required. But I put something in, it goes away, I remove it, it comes back. But there's no logic here, there's no check. So I can just go and say, this is fine, I will just ignore it. So this one is just saying, hey, show the red asterisk if this field is empty. That it's only a UI control. Let's try another one here. So let's try and say, okay, how about so let's modify and then take the credit limit. How about that? We do the same thing, show mandatory equal true. True, that is. Like that. We will stop the debugger. We will deploy again. And there's no red asterisk on credit limit. But if you remember what I said before, it will show if the field is empty. What is the definition of a field being empty? Well, it's very literal. So in this case, credit limit has a value because we are actually showing zeros here. So in order for this to work the way we intend this to work, is actually to say blank 0 equal true. So let's deploy that. So now it's showing, and it works the way we would expect it to work. But 0 is not a blank field when it comes to numbers, which is kind of weird. But if we take a look at the show mandatory thing here, we can see that it's actually an expression. So we could say that this should only work in certain conditions. So I can't remember if we've got a good field here. Let's so let's say that if rec dot, what's the field name called? Blocked. It's just called blocked. If rec dot blocked equal red dot blocked And what are the options here? All. So we should only show this if, let's say, it's not all. Or only actually show it if it's, I think the option is the space, it's blank. So let's try that. So what we say is show mandatory if there's nothing in blocked. See if that works. So we got a red asterisk. We change this guy. It goes away. So now we're controlling whether to see. Now we got a 0 in there. Did I remove blank 0? No, I didn't. That was kind of interesting. Let's do that again. So credit limit, blank. So we change this to all. Did I type a 0? I may have typed something. That might have just been my mistake. We go this back. This works. Anyway, so we have that condition. But what if we wanted to actually take this to the next level and truly make credit limit a mandatory field? Then we get into some interesting options. So let's try the first option. This one option is wrong, but I think it's probably has some meaningful actual describing. So let's say that I will we would like to avoid ever creating a customer unless there is a credit limit on it. So we will do on insert record, and we will say that if rec.credit limit is equal 0, then error, you cannot create a customer without a credit limit. Exclamation point. So let's see how that works. Oh, I think we need to actually do a return here. Sorry. Let's just quickly. So let's otherwise do an exit. Oh, true. So this trigger has we can avoid, we can disallow the insert if we return false without throwing an error. But now we're throwing an error anyway, because we certainly want to tell our users that they should never create customers without a credit limit. So let's create a new one. We select a template. Okay. So I move out of this field. I type in a name. This is another name. And so far so good. I avoid the credit limit. I exit out of this one. Nothing. This seems to totally ignore it. The problem here is that the record is actually, if you remember, if we do new and we do this, so we got some other code actually. So you see now 60 has been created. So we got other code that is controlling that. So maybe if we say that this is a bad idea, so let's see if we can make a worse idea out of it. And I'll just quickly create a table extension also here, customer, and I'm totally creating two objects in the same file right now, because you can. And now we want to do a trigger. Let's see, did I put it in the, I did here. Let's trigger, and let's do something with we can do it on before or after. We'll just do it on insert because we're gonna break if something happens anyway. So now we said that if you're inserting a customer, then you cannot insert a customer without a credit limit. So let's deploy this and see what we can do now. So we'll create a new customer. We'll say OK. And now we got a breakpoint, which is our dir function. So you cannot create a customer without a credit limit. Well, thanks, dir program, but I did not have a chance to type it in. So clearly, we get it created way before we hand over control to the user. So on insert, it's not going to work. But how about if we do on modify? So let's see what happens if we do on modify here. So let's get rid of some of all these pages we got up here. Hang on. This one is the latest one, so let's create a new customer. So whoops. So now we also have a modify. So let's actually look at the call stack here for a second. What happened? So we are on modify. Yes, that's where our code is. And on after get current, create customer from template, insert customer from template, on insert customer from template, on insert customer from template handler, create customer from template, apply customer template, apply template, modify. So this didn't work either, meaning that there's already code telling us on the table level that, hey, we're modifying it, but that happens way before we have a chance to actually get this field to be mandatory. Okay, so that didn't work. I guess it's back to the drawing board for a second. So let's get rid of this guy again and then go back to the page. Because what about, do we have something with modify? On modify on the page, would that work? So if we do, and then we do exit true again because we have the arrow. So now we are letting the page control this. Get rid of a few of these while it's loading. So, oh, hang on, I'll just open customer, sorry. New. Actually, let's kill the debugger at this point. So I press OK. You cannot create a customer without a credit limit. I should totally have kept that debugger on. Let's try that again. Let's try that again. So we do new, we select a template, we get a breakpoint. And let's find the call stack. So here is the problem, that we are actually in the page on after get current record that has a variable called new mode, so that this page is getting called with new mode equal true, meaning that the create customer from template actually happened from the cart. And then if you look at this guy, it calls a current page update, which triggers a modify. So you open the page, the template is applied and a modifier is triggered instantaneously. So we're running out of options here, and we are truly running out of options, because let's say that this was our newly created customer. So at this point, you see the lying indicator up in the corner saying saved is not helpful at all, but it is helpful from the fact that right now it's showing that, hey, we have a record, even though this is mandatory. And we don't have many options for doing this. We can work within the approval functionality. So we need to approve customers. We can go and saying, hey, when you're filling out some other fields that typically needs to be filled out, saying that you cannot fill those out before you have filled something else out. Otherwise, we are back to the scenario we had on the purchase order, that at some point something is gonna verify that, hey, you cannot use this, whatever it is, before you fill something out. So if we wanted to go down that route, we could certainly go and say, okay, let's create a table extension here. What is the time? 21 minutes. So we'll create another table extension on sales header. Extend sales header, and we will go to fields and we will modify the sell to customer number field, and then we'll do a trigger here saying that on after validate, perhaps. Yeah, could also be before. Create a variable for the customer, record customer, and then we'll say customer.get rec.sell to customer number, and then we can say that if customer.credit limit equals 0, then I wonder if we have something in the, hey, we still got the error message in the clipboard. That's awesome. So if customer's credit limit equals 0, then you cannot create a customer. Wow, that was beautiful. You cannot use a customer without a credit limit. Let's try that. So if we go and say new document sales order from this guy, we hit enter, we get a breakpoint now. So now we get our little friend here, and it says, hey, you cannot use a customer without a credit limit. So now we have enforced the red asterisks in the process, and this is kind of how Microsoft is doing it anyway. I would truly prefer, like when you're working with sales orders, that some of those fields are validated on release, and there are events in the release management code unit, but I think we're out of time for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see a video on the release management code units. But since we don't have you click to save or stuff like that, the mandatory thing is complicated. But I guess a video on almost 25 minutes on that topic kind of shows that, hey, this is way more complicated than you would think it would be. Anyway, that was very loud. I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to have a little higher volume on the video. that was not too loud. That's the video on mandatory fields. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below if there's other things that you would like me to do videos on. Otherwise, have a nice day, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.